good morning to all. This is your social class and today we are going to see our new lesson, lesson number 1. See the name of the lesson, Early Human Beings. This is from the semester 1, lesson number 1. The name of the lesson is Early Human Beings. See, let's move on to the lesson. Early human beings were called hominids. How they were called? Early human beings were called hominids. They resembled apes and walked on all fours. They slowly evolved and walked on two legs. They lived in caves and therefore called cavemen. See, what is the first sentence? Early human beings were called hominids. How they were called? The early human beings were called as hominids. They resembled apes. Resembled means looking similar. Resembled means looking similar. They look similar to apes. What is apes, children? Apes are a type of monkeys. So, how monkeys will be walking? Yes, they will be walking with their four legs. Like that, only early human beings were also walking in the early stage. So, they resembled apes and walked on all fours. They were walking with their four legs. They slowly evolved and walked on two legs. They slowly evolved. They slowly, after the days are passing, they started walking on two legs. How we are walking now? With the help of our only two legs. So, like that, they started to walk with two legs. They lived in caves and therefore called cavemen. See, in early days, the people have home. Whether they know to build home? No. They lived in caves only. Where they lived in caves. Early human beings lived only in caves. They are made of stones and other plants, trees, etc. They lived in caves and therefore called cavemen. Cavemen means the people who lives in caves are known as cavemen. So they lived in caves and so they were known as cavemen. See, they were called as hominids and they resembled apes. That is, they looked similar to apes. They walked with their four legs and then slowly they evolved and walked with two legs. Early human beings lived in caves and so they are known as cavemen. Now we will see about the time and location of early human beings. 5 million years ago, so when early human beings lived? Yes, they lived before 5 million years. So, not 1 or 2 years, not 100 or 500 years, not 1000 or 5000. They lived before 5 million years. It is the time when the world was started. Okay, then eastern and southern parts of Africa. In which place they lived, ma? They lived in the eastern and southern parts of Africa. We live in India. Like that, there is a place called Africa. So, in that place only early human beings were living at that time. So, children, when they were living? First time. So, when they were living? Before 5 million years. And where is the location where they were living? Now we are going to tell about location. Where they were living? Yes, they were living in the eastern and southern parts of Africa. There is a place called Africa. In that place, only in the eastern and southern parts they are living. Okay. Now we will go to the food and clothing. What are all the food they ate at that time? What are all the clothes they wear? Now what are the foods we are eating, ma? Yes, we are eating foods like vegetables, fruits, then meat, then nowadays many junk foods, etc. All the foods we are eating. But what they ate? Now we will see that. Early human beings were hunter-gatherers. Early human beings were hunter-gatherers. Hunter-gatherer means all the human beings, that is all the men will go and hunt for their food. They will hunt animals for their food and they will gather in one place and do the work. They hunted and ate small animals and food from forests like fruits, nuts, berries, roots. Nowadays, we will go for forest and hunt animals for eating. No, we'll go for any shop and buy some meat or vegetables. But at that time, they have to go and get their own food. Okay? So they went to forest and hunted. They hunted. What they hunted? Small animals like deer, then goat, like that. They hunted. They hunted the animals and food from forests like fruits, nuts, berries, roots. We are eating fruits and vegetables also, no? Like that, they took their fruits, nuts, berries and roots from forest. So they went to the forest for hunting animals and also they got their food from foods like fruits, nuts, berries and roots from trees in the forest. So these are the foods they were eating. Then now we'll go to the clothing. What are all the clothes we are wearing now? Yes, for small girls they will wear frocks and for small boys they will wear pant and shirt. With which material it was made, ma? It was made of cotton, silk, wool, like that materials we are using now. But at that time what they did for clothing? They were not having anything like silk, cotton, anything, there is nothing like that. So they wore the skin and fur of animals and sometimes even the bark of tree to keep them warm. So what they did? They wore the skin and fur of animals. They were hunting the animals for their food. At that time itself, they will take the skin of animals and they will wear that as their clothing. Sometimes even the bark of trees, not only the skin and fur of animals, they will also take the bark of trees and wear them to keep them warm. So they wore the skin and fur of animals and sometimes even the bark of trees to keep them warm. They used these clothing to keep them warm. So children, what are the food and clothing they were using? They were using fruits like nuts, food like fruits, nuts, berries and roots for their food and also they hunted animals and ate their meat for their food. And clothing like skin and fur of animals and sometimes they also used bark of trees as their clothing. Now we have seen how the early human beings were called. They were called as hominids and they resembled like apes. Apes are the type of monkeys and they were walking with their 4 legs and at last as the days were passing they were walking with their 2 legs. Since they are living in caves, they are known as cavemen. Then what is the time and location? Time is before 5 million years and the location is eastern and southern parts of Africa. Then food and clothing. Food means they were eating meat of animals by hunting them and they go to forest for their food like fruits, nuts, berries and roots. Then they wore skin and fur of animals and also the bark of trees to keep them warm. Children, this is the simple drawing of cavemen, that is early human beings. See their clothes, they were dressed. It is not a normal thing. Now we are dressing like sari, chudidar and then frocks like that. But they were dressing like this only. Then at first they were walking with the 4 legs and then started to walk with their two legs. So with this drawing you can remember how the caveman will be. Till now we saw about the food and clothing of early human beings. Now we are moving on to tools that were used by the early human beings. See children, they sharpened stones and attached them to sticks and used them as spears to kill animals. They used woods and bones for hunting, fishing, digging, sewing. The tools were made of stone, so it is called as Stone Age. What they are coming to say children? Here, for killing animals, we should use some weapons, no? What are the weapons we are using nowadays? We are using knife for simply for getting off from the dogs. What we will use? Just will throw some stones to get away from the dogs, no? Like that they started making tools with the help of stones only, because they are not having any other things for killing animals. So they sharpened the stones with any smaller or simple stone. We can't kill big animals. So what they did, they sharpened the stones. With the simple stone, they sharpened it and attached them to sticks. So, if you are attaching a small sharpened stone into the sticks, it will become like a knife. Okay, like that we can cut anything with the help of stone. So, they used that to kill animals and used them as spears to kill animals. They are using the stones attached with the sticks as the spears to kill animals. They used woods and bones for hunting, fishing, digging, sewing. They also used woods and bones. Woods means where we will get woods? Yes, we will get woods from trees. And bones. Bones means, yes, we are getting what we are getting from the animals. We get bones from the animals. They use the woods and bones for hunting. They use for hunting, fishing, digging, for digging, digs, and sewing. Sewing means for joining two things. The tools were made of stone, so it is called as Stone Age. So what I said, all these tools were made of stones. So it is known as Stone Age. Since they are using the tools that are made of stones, that period is known as Stone Age period. So, these are all the tools that were used by the Stone Age men. See, they are using stones. See, these are all the sharpened stones that were used for hunting. See, they sharpened a stone and attach a stick to this. So with the help of this one, they can kill animals for their hunting. Now we will move on to the language and communication. So we finished the tools, we finished food and clothing, we finished time and location. Now we are moving on to the language and communication. How they started to speak? Now we are having many languages like Tamil, English, Telugu, Malayalam, like that. At that time, how they spoke? Now we will know this with the help of these slides. They don't have language and used animal signs to communicate. So what they did, they didn't have any particular language for communicating. They communicated with the help of animal sounds. Animals are having their own sounds from their birth itself. So they used that language as a signals. They used that sounds and then signs to communicate. Signs means some of the actions. They used come here means like that. Go means like this. They use some of the actions and animal sounds for communicating between them. They made many beautiful caves, paintings using natural colors and dyes from vegetables. So now we are using vegetables only for eating. But at that time, they were using vegetables to get colors from them. So, with the help of those colors, they drawn many beautiful paintings on the caves. I don't know where they were living. They were living in caves. So, at those places, they started painting with the help of colors and dyes from the vegetables. So, nowadays we are using food colors, no? Like that, at that time they extracted colors from vegetables and used those colors for painting inside the caves. Now we'll move on to the discovery of fire. What they did and how they discovered fire. At that time, they were eating only meat and vegetables without cooking. So they ate raw materials, raw food like meat and vegetables. They discovered fire. So now we will see how they discovered fire. While rubbing two stones on together, some sparks had fallen on dry leaves and caused fire. So while they were doing something, they were rubbing two stones. They took two stones and doing something. While those two stones rubbed to each other, what they saw? They saw some sparks fallen on dry leaves and caused fire. They saw some sparks. Sparks means small fire. They saw those things that are falling on the dry leaves. Many leaves were lying in the forest, no? On them, the sparks was fallen. And that one caused fire. From this, they discovered the fire. So they discovered fire accidentally, not that we have to discover fire, so we have to do this, do that. They didn't do like that. What they did, they were simply rubbing two stones. While they were rubbing two stones, casually they were rubbing two stones, the fire started to fall on the dry leaves lying on the forest. They used to eat raw meat. A piece of meat may have fallen into fire and this becomes softer to eat and tasted well. From this they learned how to cook. So at that time early men were eating only raw meat. So they hunted, they went to forest and hunted animals and ate their meat. At that time they are not having fire, so they didn't cook anything. So they were eating only raw meat. A piece of meat may have fallen into fire. So while they are eating the meat, a small piece of meat fallen into the fire. So and this becomes softer. After taking that piece from the fire, they found that it was very softer. It became very soft to eat and tasted well. The taste also very good. So from this they learned how to cook. So they learned that after cooking the meat will be very tasty. So from that time they started cooking. So they took a raw meat, put that into a fire and it will become soft. So it tasted good. So from that time they are doing this process. This is the process for cooking. Now we'll make a fast recap. They were using some tools that are made of stones. So they sharpened the stones and attached the stick to that stones for hunting, fishing, digging and swimming. So why that period is called the Stone Age? Because they were using the tools that were made of stones. So that period, the men who used these stone tools, at that period it is known as Stone Age. Then language, how they communicated with each other. They used animal sounds and signs for their communication. And there is also another one. What they did many beautiful paintings on the caves with the help of the colors and dyes from the vegetables. Now they started discovering the fire. How they discovered While casually they are rubbing two stones, they accidentally a spark fallen on the dry leaves that are lying on the in the forest. So from that they discovered fire. They used at the time they ate only raw meat. So a piece of meat was accidentally fallen into the fire. After that, the meat became very soft and it tasted good. So from that time, they started cooking. After discovering fire, what they did? They started using the fire. Now we will see how they use the fire. Uses of fire. They started cooking their food with fire. The first and foremost uses they cooked with the help of fire. Fire helped to scare away wild animals, especially at night. So they were hunting animals. No, at that time some wild animals can come and kill them. So to scare those animals, especially at night, to scare some of the wild animals, they used fire. Then it gave off heat and kept them warm in the places that are very cooler will like to keep us warm. No, at that time they used fire. Why they used fire? Because it gives heat. While we are living in a cooler place, it will give heat. So with that heat, we can make ourselves warm. So they used fire for this purpose also. What are all the uses of fire? They started cooking their food with fire. So I told that a piece of meat was fallen into the fire and it became softer and tasted good. So from that time they started using fire for cooking. Then fire helped them to scare some wild animals, especially at night. So they scared some of the wild animals at night with the help of this fire. Then it gave out heat and kept them warm. To make themselves warmer, they used this fire. And that fire gave off heat, so it became very warm to them. Now we will go on to the domestication of animals. There were many animals. So what they did with the help of that animals? They early men made use of those animals for them. How they did? We can see now. Early human beings domesticated some animals such as cows, oxen, goats, sheep, horses, donkeys. Domestication means early human beings started to grow animals at their place itself. So this is called as domestication. What are all animals they started domesticating? They domesticated animals such as cows, oxen, goats, sheep, horses, donkeys. So cows we are domesticating now also. Oxen, goats, sheep, horses, donkeys. These animals you can see at many villages that are domesticating now also. So what are all the uses they got from these animals? Cows gave him milk. So cows gave him milk. Will drink that milk and will become stronger. So with the help of cows they got milk. Oxen were used to plow the field. We have to farm the fields. No, for that we got the help of oxen to plow the fields. Then goats and sheep are domesticated for their meat. Now also we are eating the meat of goats and sheep. So they were domesticated only for their meat. Then horses and donkeys were used to carry loads. So when we have to carry load from one place to another, what we can do? If we are having many loads that we can't carry by ourselves, what they did that time, they used horses and donkeys. With the help of these horses and donkeys, they carried load and went from one place to another. So what and all they did, they discovered fire as accidentally and they used fire for these purposes. They started cooking with the help of fire and they started scaring the wild animals at night with the help of fire, and at last they kept themselves warmer with the heat that is coming out from the fire. And then they also started domesticating animals also. What are the animals they started domesticating? Yes, they started domesticating animals like cows, oxen, goats, sheep, horses, donkeys. And what are the uses they got from these animals? They got milk from cows and they used oxen to plough the fields. Then they domesticated goats and sheep for their meat. At last, they domesticated horses and donkeys for carrying loads. What and all we saw today, ma? Yes, we saw about the early human beings, how they were called, where they lived, at what time they lived. So, they lived before 5 million years and they lived in, yes, they lived in eastern and southern parts of Africa. Then what we saw? We saw about the food and clothing of early human beings. They hunted and ate the meat of animals, and then they went to the forest, got fruits, vegetables from trees and they ate them. Then what clothing they were wearing? They were wearing clothing like us? No, they were wearing the skin and fur of animals, and also sometimes they will wear, yes, barks of trees also. And then what we saw? Next we saw about the tools used by them. What are all the tools they were using? They used stones. By sharpening them and attaching the stick with them, they will kill animals for hunting, fishing and digging. Since they were using stones at this period is known as Stone Age. Then what is the language they used for their communication? Yes, they used animal sounds and signs for communication. Then they also started drawing paintings on the caves. For what? By using the colors that were extracted from vegetables. And we saw how they discovered fire. How they discovered? While casually they are rubbing two stones, a spark was found and it was fallen on the dry leaves that were lying in the forest. And one day a piece of meat fallen into that fire. After finding that it became softer and tasted well, they started cooking from that time. So these are all the uses of fire. What they did? They started cooking, they scared animals, wild animals, and they made themselves warmer from the heat of the fire. And then we saw about the domestication of animals also. They domesticated animals like cows, oxen, goats, sheep, horses and donkeys. They used cows for their milk, oxen were used for ploughing the fields, goats and sheep were used for their meat, and at last horses and donkeys are used for carrying loads. Children, now we saw only one part of our lesson. The next part of our lesson will be continued in the next session. Children, this is a model of the place where early men were living. So, I told no, they lived in caves. So, these are the model of caves and they were living in forest. See, there are many trees in the forest. They were living in forest and hunt animals for their food. So, since they are living in caves, they were called as cavemen. Yes, they were called as cavemen. And what they did for fire, ma? Do you remember? Yes, they rubbed the stones for getting fire. With the fire, what they will do? Yes, they cooked their food with the help of that fire. So, children, this is the model of forest where the cavemen were lived, and you can create your own forest with the materials that are available at your home and keep this model at your home. And now your home assignment is you will be getting a PDF with this video, that is the PDF for classwork. You have to write the fill in the blanks and choose in your classwork. If you are having book, you can write in your book also. So and your activity is I showed a model of forest now. You can start making that activity. Then we will meet in the next session, children. Thank you.